Thanks for checking out Arduous Topics in Faith. Today I want to talk about suicide. First, I want to say I do not advocate for suicide, and nothing in this episode should lead you to believe it is okay to harm yourself. If you have thoughts of self-harm, you should seek help, and a good place to start is by calling the Suicide and Crisis Hotline by dialing 988 if you're within the United States. Many people believe suicide is a one-way ticket to hell, but this doesn't mesh with the forgiveness that Jesus preached or the forgiveness the Bible tells us we receive by believing in Jesus. When would suicide be more likely to be forgiven, and when would it not? Before we can discuss that, we need to understand something very important. The human and legal definition of suicide and God's definition may not be the same thing, and just because the legal authority here on earth ruled the death of suicide doesn't make it so. Please remember, this is a discussion of hypotheticals based on biblical teachings and should not be used as an aid in deciding whether to end your own life. Life is precious and a glorious gift from God, and no matter your struggles, suicide is not an option. There are evil people in this world. Some of those people like to cause harm to others and choose to do so by coercing their victims into hurting themselves, perhaps even making their victims believe they deserve it. An example of this could be an internet bully. This bully finds someone that is open to being manipulated while they are experiencing a low point in their life. Rather than build the person up, they tear them down further. Whether by suggesting it or just by knowledge it's going to happen and failing to attempt to stop it, suicide occurs as the bully claims the victim. In such a situation, I believe the person that committed suicide would be forgiven if they are a believer in Jesus, both believing he is the Son of God and that through him forgiveness of sins will be obtained. I also believe in this situation that the bully would be guilty of murder in the eyes of God. This too could be forgiven with repentance and belief in Jesus. But what about someone not pushed? They're just tired of life, maybe they're in too much pain, emotional distress, wish to be reunited with a loved one, are just plain bored of life and ready to move on to whatever is next. While I believe this too could be forgiven through belief in Jesus, it should be recognized that there is a shortcut to the afterlife. However, such a shortcut may not be to heaven. The 10 Commandments tell us, "Thou shalt not commit murder." Taking your own life as a way to hurry along what comes next is murder. You wouldn't kill your neighbor just to hurry along getting a new neighbor, would you? Of course not. That would be murder. So why would you kill yourself in effort to move on to the next existence faster? This would be disrespectful to God, like an ungrateful, spoiled child throwing a tantrum because the gift they received isn't what they specifically wanted. Yet even then, God may choose to forgive you. But is speeding things along really worth the risk of your immortal soul? Telling people suicide is a one-way trip to hell is damaging. Yes, it may scare a few into avoiding self-harm, but what damage does it do to those left behind? The mother whose teenage son hanged himself after his first love dumped him, must she be tormented for the rest of her days believing her son is in hell, and because of the suicide there is no chance at forgiveness? No one should advocate for suicide because life really is a glorious gift from God, but humanity often falls short in the eyes of ourselves and God. God offers forgiveness through Jesus, and God is the ultimate judge who knows all and sees all. Knowing what was in a heart and mind at the ending of that life is something God considers in judgment. I believe this without question, and I believe you should too. We are not wise enough to say what sends us to hell or who will be sent to hell. That's God's job, so let Him do it. To those listening that may have experienced such loss, do not let it weigh you down. Our God is a loving and forgiving God with unfathomably infinite wisdom. Thank you for listening, and remember to love thy neighbor and always keep your heart open. You may be the one who prevents someone from ending their own life, even if you never know about it. I believe this is a topic that should have further discussion, and we will have guests join us in a future episode to expand upon this topic. Remember to like, subscribe, and follow us on social media for future updates.